Welcome to Film Talk Weekly Radio. This is your guest host, Castle Searcy, with the Santa Fe International Film Festival. Today we are here with Dan Stubbs, Jackson Lowry, and Jason DeWitt, all in Colorado, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And we brought you here together because you're part of the 48-hour film festival, which film project, what's the right term?
Yeah, I think the official term, everybody ends up calling it the film festival, but I think the actual proper term is 48-hour film project. Yeah.
Right, I've got festival on the mind. So, I saw you posting this on Instagram and I was interested, what is this project and how can other people be a part of it? So if you can just give us an intro and tell us like what this project's about, how you found out about it.
Yeah, 48 is 48 hours of like the most extreme type 2 fun on the planet. You have 40.
What's type 2?
It's the kind where it kind of sucks, but
Okay.
it ends up better because of it. You have 48 hours to write, shoot, edit, and deliver a movie. It can be up to 7 minutes.
Yeah, so it has to be between 4 and 7 minutes is I think the standard in most regions. Some of the rules can slightly vary depending on the area that you're in and the person who's running the project. But yeah, basically the kickoff event, you're going to receive a bunch of writing prompts, so a character, a line of dialogue, a genre. And then you're going to have to use the prompts that you have to create a 4 to 7 minute long project in write, shoot, and edit and deliver it in 48-hour window.
Okay, sounds intense. And how did you hear about it?
Oh man, I honestly think I kind of got I didn't hear about it so much as I got roped into a project. I think that's kind of the same thing for you, right? Yeah, where we had friends who I think were more at that phase into directing. And so they were kind of fresh into film school and looking for more projects to work on. And that's when they discovered the project and thought it'd be a good time. We kind of got invited onto it to be part of the team. And then over time, we kind of just kept doing it and just kind of moved into more of the key creative roles as we kind of grew the team that we were working with.
Okay, and you two met at Colorado Film School?
We knew each other before Colorado Film School. We went to high school together.
Cool.
So we've known each other for years and years.
Yeah, for a long time. And most of our core group of people either met in early film school or when we were still in high school. Our high school actually had a film program, so we were able to actually kind of meet like-minded people early on. So we were able to kind of build our main creative network pretty early.
Cool. So why don't you tell me give your name and what your role is or has been on these projects.
Hi, I'm Dan. I directed and did some other things along the way.
Yeah. And I'm Jackson. My main roles were producing and then video editing.
And I'm Jason, and I've done the behind-the-scenes photography for pretty much all the past few years, at least.
I think for the last 4 or 5, you've been with us now.
Yeah, we were just trying to remember the first one that we had you on. It's crazy the fact that we've just got the best BTS of like 48 years running.
I think most teams submit like 1 or 2 photos of behind the scenes, and they get an entire package.
Yeah. Normally at the festival, they'll show the BTS, and most teams, it's like their poster and then 1 or 2 photos, and then it's our poster and like 27 photos.
It's extra nice too, because there's a lot of moments on 48 that you end up forgetting, because when you've been awake for 40 hours,
right?
It's kind of nice to look back and say like, oh yeah, I was there. Like,
I kind of forget some of the fun moments that are lost in the sleepless, creative process that you get to relive with the photos.
I'm sure it's intense. It moves fast. So Jason, talk about behind the scenes photography. I think this is not like a photographer role that people have thought of. Like when you're a photographer, it's just shooting, photography, images, portraits, but like this is an actual job for people, right?
Most films have a stills photographer that document the entire process of making the film, and it's not only taking stills from, not only shooting what kind of what they're shooting, but it's also shooting the crew and what they're doing and them involved in their process and their artistry. And it's a, catching moments throughout the entire process. And as I understand it, these are usually submitted for dailies, but and it's to show the the production house the process of the making the film. But yeah.
And for people who don't know, what's a daily? And like, tell us more about how these photographs are used.
Uh, it, so the dailies are just kind of a showing what was done each day of the filmmaking process, and for the people that can't be there to monitor what's going on or see what's going on, it gives them an idea of the process and how things are going. I don't quite know exactly how else they get used, so
I'm guessing maybe like, if you have a set up a specific way and you have to continue shooting, I'm
right.
guessing, do you take photographs of that to make sure the
A
coffee
little
cups?
bit of it for continuity. But mostly what I do is just kind of document the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
document the these guys doing what they do best, and photographing somebody that's running the camera, photographing the art department, photographing the actors getting ready. I like to try to find people in the action of what they're doing and preserve that.
I think another important aspect of the BTS photos is, with because whether it's, a commercial production, a lot of times we'll have them, almost every level of the video production spectrum will invite in BTS photographers, especially if it's kind of a bigger project. And I think one of the other aspects of it is 48's kind of a distilled version of this because you get so much uninterrupted time with people. But on any film set, at any level, it's so demanding time wise, and you spend so much time with kind of like a key group of people, um, that I think one of the other nice things with the BTS photos is it kind of reinstills kind of the morale of the group that you're working with. As far as it, like Dan said, it kind of reminds,
We have a
kind of
third guest on,
reminds
or a fourth guest on the show.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, Echo's making his appearance on the show, but it's kind of nice for everybody to be reminded of the camaraderie and brotherhood because it can be incredibly challenging, and especially with the long shifts and having to be kind of in close proximity with people, just for really long days. I think it goes a long way to be able to kind of recap everything because it can move so quickly and so much can be kind of swept up in some of the daily challenges that going back and seeing, the interactions that you got to have with your team, some of the cool creative stuff you got to do goes a long way with keeping the crew members kind of happy and excited for the next project as well.
Right, especially in a 48-hour film project, which most film shoots are longer. So this one's especially intense, and you want to capture everything because everyone can't be there for every moment, I'm sure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Uh, so why don't we? So tell me the website of how people can sign up for this.
So if you were to search 48-hour film project, in Google, the main, URL would come up, and basically it's just broken down by city. So there, in most major US cities, I think that there's generally one, in some of the smaller states, um, it's not it's not as common, but even I know that there's one in Montana. Like there's in most of the remotely in most of the remotely large states, there's going to be a project. And so really, if you just go there and look, from there, it's just a matter of going on, filling out the form, depending on, they normally happen in kind of the later summertime.
It's once a year.
Once a year. Yeah, they all happen at the same time, and it's normally later in the year. But yeah, there's global competition. So basically, as long as you can go on their website and see if there is a fest or a project that is sponsored in your city, all you have to do is just submit. There's a small fee that you pay to help keep the project going and to pay for overhead for the festival and everything, and then you're signed up for the project.
Okay, 48hourfilm.com is how you can sign up. And so tell me a little bit more about it. So if you do the one in Colorado and do you have to get accepted? Can anyone do it? Like,
Yeah,
how does the process work?
anyone can hop on to just submit to like the city's project. We can get rid of it.
It's okay.
But anyone can just sign up and be on the project. And every single project gets shown at the city festival. So even as long as you got something in on time, even if the audio's bad, even if the story's not complete, whatever, the problems were with it, they'll show every single one of them. And, the big idea is just anyone who wants to make a film, it's an opportunity to make a film. The time restraints also make it so that you actually have to get the project done. Like if you just have a short film, you can push it off forever. But the time restraints make it so you actually have to do it. And so yeah, you anybody can sign up, but then from there's the actual festival and they'll hand out awards. And Dan, do you want to speak to like next round stuff?
Yeah. The gist is out of how many we had 40 something get submitted to Denver.
Yeah, I think Denver
50.
Yeah, it was between 40 and 60 something teams submitted projects in Denver.
And so we made top 3, but skin of our teeth. We got third for Denver, and so we got pushed up into the Yes We Cans.
Yeah, Yes We Can's global competition, which was anyone who placed in the top 3 in their city was invited to come do this other one.
Which was fully international, which is really, really awesome because when they sent out like other teams in our groups, that there's like shorts in Polish and German and
and Lebanon and very cool.
It's a really awesome experience just to like get to watch all of these things from people that are like across the world, like time zones and time zones away.
So let's talk about some of the films you've done. I assume you make other films, right? Too?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that what you do for a living?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. I mean, we both work in film, photo, video production, at just different levels and different kind of categories of the industry. So yeah, but kind of work all around. We freelanced a bunch on different projects. We worked on feature films, it just kind of runs the gamut of, small little projects up to the larger stuff.
Okay. And Jason, you are a photographer full time?
Yeah, well, yeah. And I shoot mostly events. I've done a lot of work for Denver Film for 13, 15 years. And so I'm kind of involved in the film industry, in the local film industry. I'm starting to shoot a lot more for Boulder too, Boulder Film Festivals. So
okay.
Yeah.
And is this project self-funded?
Yep. Yeah. So no supportive funding from the festival. Really no resources are all going in offered. It's all, it's just self-made.
Okay. And like, how much do you think you spend what's the range that you've spent making these?
I think most recently we're probably averaging like around 5 just plus with cost, probably in the 500 to 700 range. We've gotten pretty good at being scrappy.
Yeah. Thankfully we've been lucky. We have a good team and people who, have resources and stuff that we can use. So, we're not having to pay day rates and stuff to our sound guys. Thankfully we have like a lot of trustworthy friends who are just happy to come out. But, food, props, all the any location fees, all that kind of stuff. I think you're right. Generally, we've been getting more expensive in the last couple of years, but generally it's like between 500 and 1,000 to kind of cover. That's also, with a not very lean team, that's operating with lots of crew members and several cast members and feeding them multiple times. If you're running and gunning with a very small unit, you can still make a great project and probably spend like less than $200 if you already have equipment.
Right. So this is very accessible, really. Like.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's been, I think, this last year and maybe the year before as well, there's been people who made 48s like entirely solo.
Yeah.
That have like aired in the groups, and like for some of them it's their first time ever doing this. They're like filming on their phone and they still turn in something in 48 hours, which is like kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, last year the project that won Best Cinematography in City of Denver was a solo made project. They made the entire thing, wrote, shot, acted in, edited it completely by themselves, and it won Best Cinematography. And like you said, I think the other really nice thing about it is, I mentioned it earlier, is the time frame. Like it forces you to make a project. So it's accessible. And, you know, whether the project is good or bad, by the end, you're going to have a project because there is, you know, you can't push it out for another 3 weeks or wait for more people to screen it. So I think it makes it so you can't get too perfectionist about it, and it forces you to just get a project made, which is really how you develop your skills. So I think that's a
Done is better than perfect, is always.
exactly. So it's a great festival for learning for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see. Why don't we start with like the most recent submission, I guess? And what were the guidelines you were given? What was your prop, your genre?
Let's see. For our most recent one, we had fish out of water, and what was our second genre?
It was, oh yeah, now I'm losing it too because I don't think we used it. So you get two genres, and you can
To
use
choose?
both. You can use both if you want, but you can just choose one or the other.
Okay. It's kind of like, it sounds like improv a little bit to me.
Yeah, it really does. And so there's actually some
Somebody
improv
say a
troupe.
word. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some improv troupes that have competed, and they normally have hilarious projects.
I bet. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think our genre that we went with was fish out of water. The prop was that the painting?
Prop? Nope, that was the year before.
That was the year before.
Our
prop was a musical instrument.
Nice.
So our prop was a musical instrument. The line of dialogue was, let's get some dinner, or let's get dinner sometime.
So
Yeah,
they give you a line.
So yeah, a line that has to be used. That was the prop, and then there's a character name and a character occupation. So what the character does, and so our name was so it was our main character.
It was Jesse's
Matt
name.
Matt Partridge.
Matt Partridge.
So Matt Partridge was the name. Matt or Maurice Partridge, because they always give you a male and a female name.
Okay.
And then they had to be a dancer.
Yes.
So that was all of the requirements that we had to include on it. And we really struggled with writing on this one. Normally we get kind of locked onto one specific concept faster. But I think we were having a hard time with, we don't really have any dancers in our group. So I think we were partially having a hard time figuring out how to fit dancing in. And then we also just had a smaller crew overall, so we were a little afraid of getting too many locations and having to travel too much and getting too far behind schedule. So I think we were kind of, it was kind of tricky finding what script to land on. We went back and forth for a while about it.
How long do you spend writing?
Usually as little time as you can.
Okay.
Usually we get done writing around 2 or 3 in the morning. And then that's kind of when you want to call it so that you can get a couple hours of sleep before you go and shoot the whole thing in a couple hours.
Which normally you get all of your submission info around like 6:30 or 7 most of the time PM on a Friday. So we try to normally have like a skeleton of a script done by midnight so that we can send it to the crew and the cast. And then we'll spend the last couple hours kind of polishing the script up.
And these guys have gotten a lot better at their writing over the years too, because like one of the first years that I was on the team, I think they were still writing around 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's probably true.
I would guess you'd be writing all the way through and rewriting, and
that's definitely part of it. Like, you know, I wrote the first draft, and what we actually had by the end was like in the edit had significant changes made to it, kind of as you see potential flaws in the script.
Let's hear some more about your experience. So your last film, was that 2024?
Yes.
Okay, and it was Dance Mob, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that. So you said you spend about a few hours writing the script. Wait, how much do you sleep this whole weekend?
So I probably have the lowest total from our team, I reckon, and I'm clocking about 4.5 over the 48 hours.
Oh my God, I can't do that. I can't.
But you get good at it. It's a muscle. That's
Yeah.
48 is a muscle. And one of
Yeah.
those is learning to give up on sleeping for a little bit if you know that that time is useful.
And it's kind of knowing too when you can get away with sleeping, because so with Dan being the kind of our main creative pivot point with directing and kind of where the main point that every department needed to work through, he never really got to sleep. I was more involved kind of on the front and back end of the project with writing and then with post-production. And so in that kind of window of time, I slept better. I probably did maybe 8 or 9 over the course of that whole, the whole weekend. But I think generally our time frames we've ended up trying to do kind of get our project evening on Friday, have a script that is 80% of the way there and sent out to the team by midnight. We normally aim to try to be shooting by 9 or 10 a.m. the next day, depending on how much stuff we might need to pick up, because we might need to wait till stores open to go get, a jacket or whatever the prop is or something.
Right.
And kind of shoot from 9 or 10 a.m. to ideally midnight, before midnight, the end of that day. We normally will be trying to hand footage off to the editor throughout the day so they can get a jump start on working. So that's when I was editing scenes while they were still shooting. And then it's just kind of a mad dash from there. We send the whole crew home, and then the editing team just locks in kind of overnight through into the next morning, depending on, how much work needs to be done and if we're running behind at all. And then it's just kind of a mad dash to the finish and trying to get as much polish on the project and before the deadline hits.
Do you ever have extra time?
Anytime that you have extra time, you end up using it for something.
Yeah.
Because you can submit multiple like versions and they'll take the most recent one and submit it on time. And so a lot of times, if you're at a spot where you have your movie, you'll just export and you'll just put it up there, and then you have 2 hours now to like tweak all the things that you inevitably missed, because you're gonna miss something when you're editing on 4 hours of sleep.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's kind of nice to, when you have that extra time, really what it is the time that you should be using to do like, quality assurance.
Yeah, like with Dance Mob, I think that we had a pretty much final project maybe 3 or 4 hours out from submission deadline. So we watched it. We had like a nice little kind of wrap party with the crew to show everyone. And then we kind of dialed back in for those last 3 hours and kind of polished out the sound stuff that we wanted fixed and the color and everything. So yeah.
Wow. Oh, you had time for a wrap party.
This one, it helped that we all shot in one location, but yeah, just a little 30-minute break.
Right. Yeah. A speed wrap party.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was a bit of a dash, because for most people they're done. There was really two of at that point, because Jack's job was all done too, and so it was just me and Jacques, our sound mixer and editor, and just general, he knows sound because the rest of us are scared of it. It was just us two sitting in we watched the movie, we said hi to people, and we just went right back in and just locked back up
and just finished it up.
But it's also it's part of the fun. Everyone gets it. That's the cool part. Like talking to people afterwards. I was like, I'm sorry that I had to, like run out of this rap party and not really say goodbye. And they're like, no, it's actually cool that you did that. Like that's the spirit. And like everyone gets it front to back, even the people who are like first time doing 48, people who haven't worked with us before. Like it's really cool how fast people just jump in and they're like immersed in the world and say like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We're moving fast. Everyone's going a little bit crazy, but everyone's having fun.
Yeah, the buy-in from people in the first couple hours is really crazy to see, for sure.
Well, you probably meet like the coolest people, because you have to have a certain attitude to do something like this. And I can tell that all of you have that kind of attitude. Like you're not no people.
That's definitely, and that was something we've been prioritizing the last several years. We kind of, we had a project called Beatdown that was the only one that we've ever not gotten in on time. And we were really happy with how the project turned out. But we just ended up having some hiccups over the course of the project. And we kind of came to the conclusion that, like you said, it's really about the attitude of the people that you bring in, because it is such a high pressure situation that you really need people who, when problems come up, if you want to make a project that you're going to be happy with on time, when projects come up and challenges arise, you really need people who are going to react to it with okay, here's a new challenge, rather than like I'm going to melt down because these things are going wrong. Like, it definitely takes a certain kind of attitude to have a good time while you're making it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, back to improv's on my mind, I guess, but like, it's a yes and kind of, mentality.
Yeah, I think we afterwards when we were talking about it, I pretty much just declared, I was like, okay, the next year for 48, we're gonna have 10 people on our movie. We're gonna just like, it's gonna be everybody that's just really chill, and we're gonna have to work harder, but also it's gonna just be 10 of us having a grand old time.
Yeah,
and we made a.
Instead of 20 of us suffering.
I think on Beatdown, we had like 35 people.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest day. And so it was like, it became a big thing. And so I think to pare it down, and then we increased in size for Dance Mob again, because I think there's like, there's an ebb and flow, and it's cool to bring new people in.
Yeah.
But I think that resetting and doing a year where it was just like 10 of us in a dumpster was really, really awesome. That whole movie takes place in a dumpster. And so it's like you spend a lot of time in the dumpster when you're filming in a dumpster.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of creative people hanging out around a dumpster at 2 a.m.
Is that the hot garbage?
That was hot garbage, yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but I did see Dance Mob, and that also involves a dumpster.
So yeah, we actually have 3 movies that involve that dumpster at this point.
What does this mean, guys? What is this?
So it'll get revealed down the line.
So it's actually funny. So we've threaded all of these together. So if you watch all 3 of them, there actually is there is an overarching plot thread. Actually, it's a shared universe in an incredibly stupid universe. But yes, actually, so it's the same dumpster in all 3 movies, but they're in totally different periods of time. But basically, the first time that it happened, I think we just had a really goofy script that we knew that we had this dumpster that was recyclables only that got emptied on Fridays, and it fit with the goofy script that a friend of ours had written, and we thought it was hilarious. And then when we had the smaller crew, we got a plot that we were like, well, wouldn't it be funny if we filmed with the dumpster again? I mean, we can just go clean it again. It's right here. It's where we're going to be editing. And then by the second time, it's a joke at that point. So when we had the opportunity to do it again, this last time, we just, we thought we had to.
It's like the dumpster's like your main character, or like the 12th man on the field.
It's slowly becoming it. We've been making the joke that they're going to have to make a best dumpster movie for 48, and we're just going to win it every year. But,
our legacy.
Our legacy.
There was a rock with a face on it on the first one. I've seen it on a couple of the other.
Yeah, so the rocks, that's the overarching thing. So On the Rocks is the first one in the dumpster, and there's rocks that have like faces painted on them with googly eyes. And you can see why if you go watch On the Rocks. But every single other one of them has the googly eye rocks in them at some point. So they're ever present in the dumpster.
Correct.
That's nice. That's next level. I like this, and you can have your own festival one day. Now, you talked about like you have like these kind of Easter eggs and like continuing themes. Like that's obviously something you're probably thinking about ahead of time. What else can you prepare for going into this? Like, do you do any pre-writing? Like, is there anything you can prepare ahead of time?
So I mean, to some degree, like you could probably pre-write to the degree of like I have this theme or something, if it's something that's kind of universal, but because you don't get a genre until the start of the competition, pre-writing can be a little bit of a Pandora's box of like it can end up burning more time than you'd actually save if you just like go in. And also I think all of us like philosophically for 48 like the idea of doing it all in the 48. But there are definitely things that you can do beforehand, like getting food and water for your crew beforehand. Very, very nice. Setting up like we're fortunate to have like a location that we've been able to like use as a production office for the last many years of this.
Yeah.
And having one spot where everyone knows to meet and people can come and go is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I think too, just like hanging out with everybody for a minute before you go and like start the thing is kind of nice. Because, like we've never gone at each other's throats or anything, but you have a lot of very quick just interactions that are really laced with like, I have to get this done.
Yeah.
And
there's not a lot of time for like like formalities, maybe.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
And so having some time on the front and the back end where you get to hang out with them and, just like have a beer and say like, hey, we just made a movie, or hey, we're about to make a
Yeah.
movie, is really, really cool, because the next 48 hours, everyone is like, there's one direction. And so it's very tough or it's nice to have the time to like remember that you're all doing this because you're really good friends and like hanging
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I definitely think like as far as like pre-prep, it's mostly on the logistical end, like what's your gear look like? How are you going to edit? We had a big meeting before Dance Mob about what the editing workflow was going to look like and whose computer stuff was going to go to for what. And that helps alleviate some of those moments where you might get into some kind of argument, as having those plans, because the last thing that you want is any kind of confusion on that when you only have 4 hours left and everybody's, running on no sleep.
Yeah.
So logistics, and then I kind of agree. Creatively, there's only so much you can do. We've in the past had locations that we thought were cool, so we kind of went into it thinking, well, let's try and write a script to do at this spot or something,
Uh-huh.
which can kind of backfire. Like you said, it can end up just blowing up because you end up wedging something that doesn't fit into your spot.
Right.
But I do think you can. We've had meetings almost every year kind of saying, this is where I'm at creatively going into it. So,
Mhm.
I feel like making something more serious, or I kind of feel like this might be a direction I'm interested in going with, which obviously, again, can be thrown out the window once you get your prompts. But that is, I think, one of the few things you kind of can do to get ready with your team.
How do you handle actor? How do you cast?
Part of it is finding actors and including them as part of the team. Like, we've been very fortunate in having the people that have stuck around being really enthused about what we're doing. And like, a lot of them are like active and reaching out to us, but we've also cultivated that over years. Also, 48's an awesome place for connections. And like this year, two of our cast members they were like returning cast member, or three of them were returning
Yeah,
cast
three of
members
them were
we've used
returning cast
before.
members.
But two of them got brought on because another cast member went out and said like, hey, these people are fun enough to make a movie with, and
Hmm.
you'll have a pretty good time. It might be crazy. And they came on and they absolutely elevated
Yeah.
it. It would not have been the same movie without them.
Definitely.
So it's the casting. It helps to kind of have a couple under your belt, just because you get the ball rolling and people kind of get excited about what you're doing. But also part of it's just like kind of being open towards things. Someone who's been in both of our last two 48s was somebody who was not there to be an actor.
Yeah.
He was there to hang out, and we thought he would do a really good job, and he's done a really good job both times. And he just jumped into it wholeheartedly and was like, he had like theater, like he had like a theatrical background, so he wasn't a total stranger to the concept. But
Yeah.
he did not go into that weekend expecting
Yeah.
that. He probably woke up that morning to a text from me that was like, hey, I cast you, so we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah, and we definitely, I think, in our first several years of doing it's a lot of friends or people who are going to film school for acting who are just starting out. But as we kind of build our level of credibility with our projects, not only just not trying to say like that they are specifically quality wise good, but credibility as, trustworthy filmmakers who are going to take care of people, who are going to value the safety and, comfortability of the talent. Has gone a long way because, like Dan said, a lot of our cast has just been people that we worked with on one project who connected us with more people because they said we like working with you guys. It's a good, positive, fun environment. You guys don't like drive us like like crazy, with crazy hours or anything. And I think that's a big part of it because I know a lot of talent specifically can get burnt out with 48 because if the crew's snapping at each other and having difficulties and the script was kind of rushed and you're having to deal with not a lot of food or not great craft services or whatever, it can build up. And especially if you have to do a really emotional scene, that can be exhausting. So I think that's a big part of it if you want to do a lot of 48s, is kind of proving that you're going to take care of the people that you're bringing on to be a part of your team, since it is such a high pressure kind of situation that you're bringing them into.
Right. What other advice do you have for someone doing this festival, or for working in film in general? One thing from each of you.
I think the thing for both is just do it. It's a lot less nebulous for the 48, because for the 48, if you can pay for the entrance fee and you can go onto the website, you can do this thing.
Is it only narrative, not documentary?
Yeah, I think it is strictly narrative.
It's strictly narrative. I mean,
Okay.
there's a mockumentary category, so there
Okay.
actually it's as a genre, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is narrative as
Okay.
far because you have to meet your prop and stuff, so you're gonna end up narrativizing it a lot anyways.
Yeah, I think that just doing 48 is the best way to know if you're gonna like 48 or not. And if you like 48, you're really gonna like 48. And so I think doing it is totally worth it if you're like on the fence about it. And I think just in film as a whole too, just like proactivity is like a really, really important thing. And if you're not doing things, you shouldn't expect things to come at you. And I think that film is very like, yeah, I don't know. It's important to keep doing your thing because no one else is going to make exactly what you want to make. So artistically, I think it's cool to just do it.
Yeah, I think I would kind of echo the same thing and just add you know, I think a lot of people can get swept up in if they make a project and they're not thrilled with how it came out, or if people that they show it don't, you know, respond super well to it. That can turn people off of it. Or if they're starting to make their own projects and they haven't quite broken into it as like a job or as a career, that can be really discouraging. And I think it's the same thing with Dan is you just kind of have to keep doing it and trust that you're going to build those muscles up. And if you just stay proactive with continuing to learn whatever the trade specific to the industry that you're trying to do, whether that's directing or producing or cinematography or editing, just finding ways to work on projects, even if it's for free, even if it's on a lower budget than what you're looking for, to build the experience up, to build the connections up. Because ultimately, the reason that our 48s are able to succeed at this point is because we have really talented people who we can bring out to supplement our team, and that we've gone through and made a lot of really crappy projects that kind of let us learn how to make better projects. So it's a really long, for some people, decades long process of learning how to make films and learning how to produce films and learning how to be a part of the industry. So it's just, if it's truly your passion, you just have to plug away at it and trust that it's going to work. Even if it takes a long time, because it definitely is a process of meeting and learning in a way that a lot of jobs aren't.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the rule for anything, you know, photography or film, is you just continue plugging away at it and just keep trying to collaborate with other people and trying to keep busy in, you know, just try to keep projects going. And if you're not doing that, then you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to progress.
And I think what you've all covered without even saying it is like attitude and relationships, are really key. And you can tell that all of you are like, good at keeping people happy, making, creating relationships, long lasting ones. And, that's so important, I think, in this industry and others, and having the right attitude. So it's, as someone who hires people to do things like this often, it's like I'm going to go with who I want to work with, who's like fun, easy, and not like, complaining or can't get the job done. Like you've got
And
to
that's
have
a
all the
huge,
pieces, but like
yeah.
a lot of times if it's between two talented people, I'm going to go the one I like working with. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Never want to work with the guy that's always going to tell you no.
Yeah, and with the really challenging schedules that most film sets have, and especially with 48 too, it's so much about attitude, because like you said, if you have two equally talented people, but one of them can deal with problems as they come up without, turning
Mhm.
into a nightmare to deal with on the production, of course I'm going to go with that person. So it really is about kind of going with the flow and just accepting that it's a chaotic industry, and that's just going to be the way it is sometimes.
Yeah. Give me how can we reach you? How can we watch your projects, each of you? Real quick before
Oh.
we go.
Yeah, sure. I'm Dan. If you want to find my projects, I guess find me and I'll point you at them.
Okay, what's your Instagram?
My Instagram's Dan Stubbs too. Yeah,
Dan Stubbs 2.
that would be it. Yeah,
Okay,
unfortunately,
cool.
one was taken by me in a past life.
Oh, uh,
And I'm Jackson Lowry, and you can find me on Instagram at claymore.media.
okay.
Uh, and you can try to find that on YouTube. I don't have a lot of subscribers, so it might not come up, but if you DM me on Instagram, I'll send you links to any of these projects if you're interested.
Cool. Jason?
And you can find my work, Instagram, Jason DeWitt Photo, website, again, Jason DeWitt Photo, pretty much all over the place, Jason DeWitt Photo.
All
So, and headshots, events, cool stuff like BTS. I love doing BTS.
Yeah, I know your work, and it's great. You're great to work with. That's the word on the street. Thanks for joining us, you guys. This is Film Talk Weekly. I'm your guest host, Castle, with the Santa Fe International Film Festival. We've been here with Basketball James, the team who has been working on 48-hour film project for almost 10 years now out of Denver. And thanks for telling us about it, and thanks for spending the time.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was great talking to you.
Come down to Santa Fe.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
Okay.